Makes me me.
Hello, happy Saturday. We haven't done a live video all week. We took a little break.
Yeah.
It was nice. It's nice to be back. I chopped my hair off. It was my birthday yesterday. So welcome to Self-Healing Saturday. For those of you who are new in the GNM Self-Healing Support Group, welcome. Nice to meet you. I'm Dr. Melissa Sell. This is my wonderful partner, Dr. Stephen Robinstag. We are both chiropractors turned mental wellness people. We teach people thought technologies for changing the way that you think about things. And we use German New Medicine and the paradigm of understanding how your body functions, why your body develops symptoms, why your body does certain things, because it is the most amazing study of the human body, and it shows how powerful your mind is. In GNM, the primary iron rule of cancer is that it's conflict shocks. It's things that happen in your life, moments in time where you are caught off guard that cause your body to create adaptations that we interpret as disease. And so it's that interpretation. It's your unique individual point of view, the way that you see the world, how you interpreted a certain situation will interpret what happens inside of your body. And so your ability to develop conscious awareness, which is what we teach you how to become more aware of your thoughts, more aware of what's going on behind your eyes, of the mental patterns and processes through which you see everything about your life, and to take conscious control of that entire process so that things don't just happen and you wonder where emotions come from. I used to struggle emotionally with a lot of things. I didn't know where my emotions came from. I wasn't aware of my thoughts. I wasn't aware of the things that I was consciously believing. And so today we want to zoom in and talk about the power of your beliefs, what beliefs really are, how they operate in your life, and why it's an important thing to know what you believe, and then practice conscious believing, because it will shape everything about your life.
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about belief. Do you know what I mean? Lots of books about belief, how you change them, affirmations, meditations. I have belief blocks. I believe these things about health and money and all. I've read so much of this stuff, but relatively rarely have I encountered anything about, like, what can you do about that, right? Because so many people know that beliefs are important, or they know that they believe things that probably aren't serving them, and that knowledge very consistently fails to translate into an ability to actually do something about the fact that you believe the things that you do, or that you don't believe certain things that you don't believe, but that you would like to, or things that would improve what it's like to be you if you did believe them. And so here's a way, just for me, there's this pattern in human language, in the way that we conceptualize and think about and map experience, where we take things that are really dynamic processes, right? Things that are active and ongoing happenings. And we talk about them because it's convenient. It helps to communicate with other people. We refer to them, we talk about them as though they were static events, right? As though they were static objects or things. I have a belief that I can't succeed, say. And it's like, okay, well, where is it? Something that I have. I talk about it as if it's a physical object that I possess, or that it exists somewhere in my brain, and I can't find it to get rid of it. I know it's in there, but I can't find it, so I can get rid of it so that I can go have and be successful. The reality is, though, and the reason so many people can feel disempowered and kind of paint themselves into a corner, or they're like, well, I know what my problem is, but I can't do anything about it. I really think that if I ever have a sensation that I know what my problem is, but I can't do anything about it, I'm probably mistaken about exactly what my problem is, right? I probably haven't most resourcefully identified what this problem is. I'm not conceptualizing it in a way that's really maximally resourceful to me. And that really, to me, if a conceptualization, if a way of thinking about something isn't serving me, why continue to do it, right? You throw it out. If you've got some kind of a tool that you've bought and it's supposed to be the best tool in the world, and the salesman was really persuasive and it's not working for you, that is the ultimate measure. The thing's not working. It doesn't matter how great it seemed at the time or how convincing the belief was when someone really told you this is the way things are. It's like, look, is this belief that I can't heal, or I can't make money, or I can't be happy, or I can't get well, or whatever, that my body's out to get me, is this belief serving me? Is it helping me kind of create the kind of results that I want? So shifting from this idea that I've got this static thing called a belief of, what do I do about that? Great. Yeah? To recognizing that believing is an active and an ongoing process, right? No one has a problem because there's a belief somewhere in their mind hiding somewhere that's creating problems for them. They are actively believing something. I don't have a hammering of my thumb. I'm hitting my thumb with a hammer. That's a big difference. We recognize that there are things that we are doing. And so when you begin to shift into relating to belief, if we can turn it into a process, it's something you're doing. It's something you're doing right now. You're either doing it or you're not. And if it's something you're doing right now, the answers to how to do something different will be found right here and right now. Not in the deep, dark depths of the past. What happened when I was younger? What did my parents do? What didn't they do? What accident happened that scarred me for life and determined my destiny? But that there are things, that's very disempowering, right? Because, I think it's lost in the mists of time. It's a mystery. I'll never really unravel it. A lot of people spend years in therapy and years and years and years to find out what the problem is. And then they discover the problem, and they're very disappointed to find that thinking that they found out what the origin of their problem is doesn't create the kind of solutions to that problem that they were really hoping for. The solutions are always found here and now because it's an active and an ongoing process. And when you start relating to your beliefs in that way, when you start to realize if there's a believing that's influencing what it's like to be me, it's impacting the experiences and the results that I'm able to create in my life, that belief's power, or that believing process's power, is here and now. It's being exerted here and now. And so here's a way of thinking about beliefs that I think is a little bit more useful, a little bit more resourceful. A belief, let's say about health, right? So what was that example of the belief that you...
The belief that your body can heal.
Okay.
That the body heals itself.
So to say that a person believes that their body can heal themselves, what does that mean functionally? What does it look like mentally? What does it think like? It is a collection of thoughts in your personal history, a collection of thoughts that you have thought in the past on a particular subject that are influencing the quality and the character of the thoughts that you think on that subject right now. That's what a belief is. It's a collection of related thoughts in your personal history. Well, when I was 5, I thought this, and when I was 7, my mom did this, and that led me to think I wasn't good enough a lot, or I had this illness growing up, and so I thought a lot about how health was a problem. I thought a lot about how I wish I was not the way that I was in terms of my body or my well-being or whatever. That is what a belief is. It's thoughts, right? It's active things that you did in the past, when of course it was now when you did them, and now those things are in your personal history. And the power of that belief is the degree to which, the power of that collection of thoughts in your history, the power of it is the degree to which it influences what you are likely to think now, right? So I've always thought that my body doesn't really heal itself. I've always thought my body was kind of a pain in the ass. It was kind of out to get me, or it was always letting me down, or always breaking down, or whatever. I've thought thoughts on that general subject a lot over the course of my life, let's say. That's going to predispose me in this now moment to think similar thoughts. And every thought that I think that kind of goes along with that, because I'm thinking it under the influence of the thoughts that I've thought before, goes into the pile. Because my now present moment will very soon be a moment in my personal history determining what I'm doing in my next present moment. So if I'm always taking cues about what to do in this now moment from the now moments that populate my personal history, very likely the future that I will create for myself will be kind of a perpetuation of the experiential essence of what I have had in my life experience up until this point. And I think the thing that's useful about this way of thinking about beliefs is it's like, I understand why I'm inclined to think the things that I am about my health, about my relationships, about money or whatever. And I also know that if I follow my inclination in that regard, I'm going to perpetuate a life experience that makes me even more inclined to think those things, even more inclined to experience them as true, even more inclined to kind of manifest results and feelings and perceptions and relationships and health situations and all this different stuff that are consistent with what's been going on up until this point. And I find it's a very empowering thing, because, and this is, when I'm working with people, this is one of those really, like, my objective and my goal is to help you make sense out of doing that which serves you, when in the past it has always made sense to do that which doesn't serve you. Because as soon as it makes sense to do what serves you, you'll do it. As soon as in that moment in time, when people do things that don't serve them, let's say that they do really well all week long, and on the weekend something happens and they do things that don't really serve them anymore, or they eat things that they know don't really work for them, or they act out in their relationships and create problems or whatever. The reason that they changed their behavior is that they went from being able to make sense out of doing what served them. Something happened that changed their criteria for choosing what to think, feel, and do. And because that criteria changed, what they thought, what they felt, what they did. And because they changed those things, the results that they got changed too. And so when you really can recognize that, you can start to respond resourcefully and in ways that serve you to those situations. So that if you feel that impulse, right, to believe something or to think a thought that's consistent with the belief that you know is not resourceful, well, if you just feel that impulse, if it just makes sense to you, and you don't have a way to respond resourcefully to the fact that something's going on in your mind that's causing you to make sense out of doing something that you know doesn't serve you, what will you do? You'll do what doesn't serve you. But as soon as you have a way of relating to it, a thought technology, you've got an answer, you've got a thought, you have a belief for that thing, you have this flexibility. You've got this ability to say, it seems like I have to in this moment think, feel, believe, do this thing because I'm checking inside and I feel like it and it seems true to me right now, and I've always done things based on what seems true to me in this now moment, even though oftentimes what seems true to me in this moment seems totally false to me in the next. When you have that ability, you have options about how you respond to your experience, regardless of what your experience happens to be. And when you start exercising those options consciously, you start choosing consciously, you always choose what serves you.
Yes, thank you for the compliment about my hair, Deborah. What you're saying there, and for some of you watching this video, it kind of depends on where you are coming into this material, because a lot of people, they don't even really believe that their belief has that much impact on what goes on with them in their life. They just believe that and this is how I used to believe, I just believed that what I believed was true. And it was true because I believed it, and I believed it because it was true. And I didn't realize that what I was believing, my process of believing, was having an influence over the moment-to-moment reality of what it was like to be me. I used to think that, I even told Steve, this was kind of where all of this started for us, was in our relationship. I was like, I'm just crazy. You don't want to, there's nothing I can do about it. I experienced myself and my personality as having kind of like some flaws, some issues. Like, I got issues, it's kind of take it or leave it. You're going to have to take me and all of my problems, because my problems are just me and that's who I am, and I'm never going to change. Essentially, it's because I believe that. I believe that I am who I am, how I am, and that's just that. But when you start to understand that belief in and of itself is creative, the belief that I am fundamentally flawed, that there's kind of like problems with me, problems that will always be there, problems that will never change, that my act of believing that I have problems perpetuate the existence of those problems in my life, because I'm in that process, and when I screw up or I say something or I cause a fight I can go back and say, well, it's because I am fundamentally flawed. And so that's how we perpetuate, and how beliefs really, it's just, they are self-confirming in nature. If you believe something is true, every time you see a little bit of evidence of it, you say, oh, see, it's because this thing is already true. I already told you I was crazy. That's why I did that crazy thing, is because I just am crazy, or I have problems. Or I cause issues, I don't know how to have a good relationship, whatever it might be for you. And so when you start to realize that your beliefs are shaping your life, and that you start to believe that, and so you kind of have to turn the whole belief process back in on itself and say, do I believe that what I believe, what I'm thinking about, matters, say on a cellular level about what's going on in my body? Do I believe that GNM and conflict shocks and these issues cause things to make changes, adaptations in my body? Do I even believe that? You've got to think about your relationship to beliefs. And so a lot of things is just, most people, they're just so unaware of what they believe, because it's kind of a background. It's like, well, what I believe is just the truth, and I'm not aware of like the fact that it's actually an ongoing process of something that I'm choosing to do in a certain way. And so that's where a lot of the things that we talk about tend to be kind of like, what are they talking about? Because of the fact we're talking about things that go on silently inside of our minds, and it can't be measured on a blood test, it can't be seen on a scan. It's a process, it's an internal creative activity of experience generation. It's like, how do you do this thing called being you? How do you create an internal experience of unworthiness? How do you feel insecure? How do you go about feeling stressed out or worried or freaked out, or all of the little nuances of what makes you a unique feeling, emotional human being? What is that made out of? It's made out of strings of thought, internal dialogue, pictures we make in our head. It's made out of all sorts of stuff that is kind of hard to talk about because we're all flooded in it 24 hours a day, where we are constantly having this thing called an experience. And so we're so immersed in it that we take it for granted that there are components that our experience is made up of. There are components of your experience if you are currently in a healing process, if you're trying to, allow your body to do a healing. It's like, what does that look like internally about your mind? What am I thinking about that causes me to go back into my conflict? That's made out of something. And so because it's hard to talk about what exactly it's made out of, most people don't talk about it. They, give you kind of general things you can do about forgiveness, or general ideas, like you said, about meditation, or general, here, do a little bit about that. But what we do that's very unique is we talk about the actual components. We try our very best to make it as understandable as possible for you to kind of get a handle on what it means to create an experience of whatever emotion you have. And if you've got a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts that aren't good, that aren't creating experiences that you enjoy, that aren't improving what it is like to be you, very likely these negative feelings, what they're doing is they're communicating to every part of who you are. They're communicating to ancient parts of your brain. And so that realization, the belief that I have that I'm not going to be able to heal, and that every time I have a setback, every time I have a symptom, every time something on a scan or blood test doesn't go exactly right, I am reaffirmed in that belief that something's not okay, that I don't think I'm going to make it through this, so-and-so was right, maybe I'm not able to heal. And like how those little blips on those thoughts that come up, that is part of this whole thing of having a personal experience of believing something. And so that's where this is. We call it a thought technology. It's a way of thinking and talking about our thoughts and our feelings in a new and different way that will help you to make these fundamental, these very profound shifts in what I just thought right there, that was an act of believing. And that belief, is that reinforcing more of what I want, which is healing, health, vitality, everything's awesome, my body is healing, I can do whatever I want, I can create this future that I desire? Or is it, so-and-so was right, I'm not going to be able to do it, I'm not good enough, I'm fundamentally broken, I'm fundamentally flawed. These little beliefs, these little things that we say to ourselves have profound impact on this overall experience of being ourselves. And so that's where understanding and knowing what do you believe and how are you going about believing is such a powerful, very, very powerful thing to become aware of.
There's a bunch of things you said.
Thank you, Rachel.
It's great, isn't it? I told you to take a haircut. There was a couple of things that you said, three main things that just made so much sense to me, and I had to write it down because I'm just gonna spontaneously start speaking, right? Because you just evoke these ideas. And the first thing you said was you didn't believe that your beliefs were important, right? Mm-hmm. And what does that mean functionally? You know what I'm saying? What does that mean? Let's put that in different terms that make it more obvious what we can do about the fact that you don't believe or that you didn't believe. If you don't believe something and you would like to believe it, to say that you don't believe that your beliefs are important simply means you have not, in your personal history, thought enough times something to the effect, something consistent with the basic idea that beliefs might be important, right? So if I'm just kind of like, Joe Schmo walking down the street and I see a book about, your beliefs are really important, and I hear that and I check inside and I'm like, I might be missing out by not believing that, but I just don't believe that's true. That's a big problem for the average person, because the average person believes they either believe things or they don't. That's like the default belief that we have. For me, if I encounter somebody and they say, this belief is really important for accomplishing this, and I check inside and I'm like, that kind of sounds like bullshit to me, but I'm afraid that the fact that seems like bullshit to me may keep me from enjoying the benefits that person seems to be enjoying, I am in a position now where I know the only reason that belief seems so strange and unfamiliar to me is that I haven't spent enough times pondering the possibility that maybe that or something like it actually is true. It's like it's as if like our relationship to these resourceful beliefs, it's as if we wanted to meet new and wonderful people, but every time we met someone we didn't know, we said, I can't get to know you because I don't know you. It's as if like our criteria for we want to meet new people because we know meeting new people will serve us and enrich our experience. But every time we meet someone who we don't know, we say, "Oh, I don't know you, get away." That's how a lot of people act with belief. Well, what's the solution to that? Do you marry that person right away and give them access to all of your bank accounts? Do you try to force yourself to literally believe this thing right off? No, you go on dates with them, right? Or you text them, or you talk to them, or you talk about, favorite movies and stuff like that. That's how you approach a new belief, is that you think thoughts. Thoughts are like the equivalent of going on a date, let's say, or sending a text message back and forth, even like points of contact, like in the beginning of the relationship where you just kind of back and forth, and you're like, you got that internal calculator going, and you're like, okay, we've had about like 40 strokes here, like we've said back and forth, and she's replied, and I've replied, and all that. That's pretty good. You got that calculator going inside that's like, okay, we're doing okay, guys, we got to get our contact level up. It's been several hours, it's been several days, we haven't heard anything. That's what thinking the thought is. That's what pondering the notion of that belief is. My body can heal itself all the time. Don't try to force that thing. You know what I'm saying? Because that belief's going to get out of there. Believing it is the equivalent of, say, getting married. Believing is that, like, all right, listen, we've thought this thought enough times to know we like the way this thought thinks. We like the way this thought feels. We like the way this thought experiences. I know, and you know what the interesting thing about this is? People don't always marry people that they like, right? But they usually marry people that they feel like they know pretty well. And that really is what believing is. It's like, I thought a number of thoughts. I went on a number of, it's even really interesting, too, to think about, like, common law marriage. Like, you don't even have to get married in certain states. In certain states, if you cohabitate with someone, if you live with them for a certain period of time, this thing just happens automatically. Same thing with belief. Common law belief says that if you just think a thought a certain number of times in a certain way that doesn't elicit backlash, that isn't so kind of creative cognitive dissonance, which is like where you force yourself to think something or try to believe something, and there's a part of you that's like, oh, fuck that, that's bullshit. If that happens, that thought that's more in the direction of reinforcing what you already believe. But when you kind of just brush up against these thoughts, you kind of just touch on them, you kind of just put them on your psychic radar. That's what I really like. Put it on your psychic radar. Maybe this is true. And I like going through it. I like pondering the possibility, thinking about maybe the fact, having it occur to me that there are people in the world who believe this. Having it occur to me that there's an imaginary version of me in an alternate universe who believes this. I wonder what that Steve's like. I wonder what that Steve's experience is like. Is that what it's like to be Steve better than this what it's like to be Steve? Thinking in those ways really begins to kind of like soften up the mental clay. It starts getting you ready for it. So that's one of the things. That's actually only one. Can you believe it? And then, so basically to say that, I don't believe that. I don't believe I'm worthy. I don't believe I'm capable. All that means, it's not a problem. It just means, I don't believe that I can heal. That's not a problem. It's a very figure-outable thing. It's a very, it's a solvable issue. It basically means that in your personal history, you have not thought enough thoughts that are consistent with this particular notion in order to feel a level of familiarity with that notion that allows you to say, yeah, I got that one. I know that one. Yes, that one's mine. So that's one. The other thing was about what were you talking? He said something that's really good. It was about getting to know your experience. And how do you realize this? That's one of the things we say. It's like, your experience of what it's like to be you, the quality of your emotions, all that stuff is really important. And a lot of times people are just kind of like, okay, well, great. How do I relate to that? It's like if I come along and I say, the content isn't really that important of your life. What's going on in your health life, what's going on in your relationships, what's going on in your finances. It's the patterns of how you relate to it. Well, because we're talking about at the level of information processing here, how you relate to everything. And we're saying you need a new way of relating to everything. You're going to relate to that information that says you need to relate to everything in a new way in the same way you always have. And so our task, which is kind of a funny and mind-bending one, is to give people a new way of relating to information that they're going to process in the same way they've always processed information before. And it's like, how do you relate to your experience of being told that your experience is really important when you have no reliable skills at this point for really improving what the quality of that experience is? And the funny thing to me, and the thing that I found most useful, go ahead and go to work using these principles, using these patterns, using these skills to improve your experience of not being all that great at using these skills to improve your experience, because that's a part of it too. When you recognize that, like, you're constantly in this thing, you're constantly like opportunities for improving what it's like to be you, for optimizing your relationship to information and to feedback, whether it's coming from your body, from other people, from your job, whatever. You are awash in them that you can't even feel them sometimes. It's like you're oblivious to them. I mean, I've become oblivious to them too. And when you recognize that, it's like, so for example, what does it mean if I have a hard time coming up with a positive thought? And I was thinking about Amazon. I love Amazon. I think Amazon's great. And when you buy stuff on Amazon, it actually, and same thing's true of Audible, because that is Amazon for books, I guess. What happens is they give you recommendations based on what you've bought before. Your mind is like Amazon. It's giving you thoughts based on what you've thought before. We thought you might like. You ever see that thing on Amazon? It's like, based on previous purchases, we thought you might like this. And you buy certain things. And now the interesting thing is, if you buy something on Amazon and you return it, they're not going to give you recommendations based on that fact. They figure that into the algorithm. When you start returning thoughts that don't serve you, you can even think them. That's the amazing thing. You can still order crap that you don't like off of Amazon and just send it back. It's no big deal. You can still think really negative thoughts that make you feel bad. Just send them back. Just say, okay, I don't like that one. Respond resourcefully to that fact. What is responding resourcefully to the fact that I ordered something and now I don't like it, or I ordered something and I didn't mean to? What does that look like? Well, it looks like clicking on Amazon saying, hey, look, I got this thing. I don't like it. I ordered this thing by mistake. Sometimes people say that they order things by mistake when they actually ordered them and then thought better of it, right? It's like, I wasn't like an actual mistake. It was like I thought better of it mistake. And just recognizing that your mind operates on that principle. Now, the interesting thing about this, and there's a lot of people who are concerned about, say, Amazon recommending books. It's cool on the one hand. On the other hand, it tends to kind of put you in an echo chamber, right? So if I always read books about how much Donald Trump sucks, or I always read books about how great Donald Trump is, whichever one, Amazon's going to start giving me more books that tend to say, oh, Donald Trump's really great, or Donald Trump's really awful. Now, that's good in a sense, because as a customer, I'm going to be delighted, because I'm going to say, oh, great, more information that confirms what I already believe. On the other hand, I'm going to there's going to be increasing distances, right, between people like me and people who are not like me, because we're both in a bubble that's increasingly kind of contained. And your thoughts are the exact same way. I mean, the more you think a certain genre of thought, a certain quality of thought, the more skewed the bank being offered up to you. You know what I'm saying? When the thoughts that just kind of bubble up, they're bubbled up based on the things that you thought up to this point. And when you recognize that, and you recognize that your experience is very much a product of the thoughts that you've ordered and not returned. Like you ordered them and you kept them, and maybe you rated them 5 stars. You know what I'm saying? The stuff that you're getting now is like that. Now, if I just get on Amazon and I don't explore it, I don't use the search toolbar. I just order the stuff that says, we thought you might like this, because I'm pretty unconscious. I don't have a lot of time. I just want to order this stuff. I want to get it. I like ordering things. I can't be bothered to look for new things. I'm going to be confined by basically my beliefs that exist right now. I'm going to be confined by everything I think right now is the product of the fact that I thought something different before. However, if I'm conscious of that and I look at that screen and I say, I don't really like any of this shit. I've got enough of this stuff. I have enough health problems. I have enough bad feelings. I've got enough jerks that don't really appreciate me and that I don't really appreciate. Let me use the search bar. Let me use my conscious intention to look and see what else could be available to me. Amazon lets you order it. You know what I'm saying? Amazon doesn't get upset when you order something different than what they expected. They just want you to order stuff. Your mind doesn't get upset when you start thinking thoughts that are different than what it expects you to think. It factors it into the algorithm, you know? And if you think one resourceful thought once a week, well then you're going to get into the algorithm. You're going to have one resourceful thought bubble up every so often, right? And if you think negative crap the rest of the time, most of your recommendations will be negative. They'll be unresourceful. They'll be disempowering. And just recognizing that's kind of like how the mind works. But when you start populating your personal history, when you start, when Amazon looks at your algorithm and says, man, over the last month, they've thought this many thoughts, they've ordered this many things, it starts to matter. It starts to add up. It starts to become significant. And you start getting stuff on your front page that you like a lot. That's what it was for me for a long time. For a long time, I was returning thoughts that I would think things about people, feel things about people, very often myself, my situation, Melissa, and I would go ahead and do the whole experience. But then at the end of it, I would kind of consciously, listen, this is a really great analogy, because it is a pain in the ass, is it not, to take an object that you don't like, that you ordered, and you gotta get a box, you threw the other box away, you gotta put it in there, maybe this is just me, you gotta put it in the car, it's in the car for like a month, because you hate going to the post office, because it's like, God, because I gotta go get tape, and I don't want to buy the tape at the post office, because it's like $50, I gotta go to Walmart, and I hate doing that, or wherever, and then it's just like, I'd rather just keep this crap, right? That's how it was for me with like,
Oh, that's so
I would
good.
think a negative thought, let's say about you. I would think something about you that wasn't fair and wasn't true. I'd then create negative feelings in me, which I would then blame on you, which also wasn't fair. I would then say things to you that really weren't resourceful and that would evoke from you behaviors that were justified but tended to confirm the negative things that I was thinking. At the end of it, I would recognize, holy shit, I did it again. I don't want this. Boy, why did I order this 75-piece laundry drying rack that doesn't work? I ordered it 5 times already and it never worked. Why did I order it again? And yet it would take me a long time. It would take a lot of gumption, to say, let me take it apart. This IKEA furniture, that's a good example. Let me disassemble this. That's why they have such a good return policy, right? Because who the hell wants to take that stuff apart and bring it back to the store? They know. And that's kind of the mind works too. I got to take this thing apart. That's embarrassing. It's going to take a lot of time. It's an inconvenience to me because I like ordering new things. I don't like returning things. And I've got to put it in the box, and the box doesn't work right. And I got to figure out how to get this thing to the store. That's what it was like in the very beginning because I had to return a whole experience. It's like returning like Costco. There's a lady who returned a Christmas tree, or like certain restaurants. Like if you eat more than a certain amount of food and you don't like it anymore, you almost feel bad about sending it back because even though you don't like it, you're feel guilty about it. It's like I had 80% of this experience. I felt so justified in being mad at you for so many hours now that I feel so foolish about sending it back. Send it back. Send it back, send it back, because the mind logs that algorithm. The mind says, well, they'd send it back, And that's how we think of these envelope thoughts. That you can salvage your whole fucking life. Could have been a disaster up to this point. And if you start thinking thoughts that are, by your assessment, it could be a disaster. And you can start thinking thoughts that respond resourcefully to the reality of the fact that you experience your life as you do in this moment in time. The mind starts responding to that. Whoa, they spent 45 years creating outcomes they didn't want. And now they're thinking resourceful thoughts about that. I guess they want resourceful thoughts now. And you start getting resourceful thoughts. And you don't start thinking maybe it's too late for me, because that's an unresourceful thought based on a previous algorithm that you started to change based on the fact that you're responding resourcefully to whatever's going on in your life right now. And that's like a very dynamic, living, active, ongoing sort of thing. It gives you tremendous power of relating to your experience. And when you have that ability, that flex ability, that ability to nothing is a problem for you. Even having problems ceases to be a problem because you just respond resourcefully to it, and you do amazing things with it. Everyone, I've never seen anyone stay average when they have access to this ability. I've never once seen anyone start to kind of get a taste for how this works, and they're missing something that just says, well, they're kind of a dud. You know what I'm saying? Everyone else has done really well, but they just haven't done anything with this. Everybody starts doing amazing things. Everyone becomes the person that other people are like, holy shit, I can't believe that they started out here and now they're the most together, happy, successful person I know. They were a real help, but they just changed everything, and everything's working out for them. And you can do that too. I mean, it's accessible to everyone. It's a pattern thing. It
is. It's such a pattern thing. And just realizing that at any moment you can make those changes. You can start populating your personal history with orders, with things that feel good, that are resourceful, that allow you to, and like you said before, something about trying to believe something that you don't believe yet is hard. And so there are so many ways. And next week we've got a new course coming out which will actually take you step by step. It's like the most amazing thing ever, Steve. Really, I'm blown away by it. Step by step, take you into kind of the back way of believing things that you don't yet believe. Because a lot of people, and this is me too, when I first was like, look at these really, healthy, successful, happy, people. What are they believing? What do they think about themselves? What do they think about the world? What do they think about money? What do they think about possibilities? What do they think about all of this? And their beliefs were radically different than mine. And when I tried to put those beliefs on and tried to believe them, I was like, this doesn't work for me. I don't believe that. And so instead of thinking I'm broken, there's something wrong with me, or Deborah's got a great question here, I'm too stupid, I'm not good enough to think this, I start just opening up that door, and there are different ways to try the belief on, and to play around with it, to populate my personal history with more thoughts of possibility. What would you say to this? That's a great question that Deborah has. But if I say to myself I'm too stupid to do a task or to teach a task, what would be a good way to resourcefully respond to that?
So That's a thought too. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. And that was the thing for me, because I wanted to. So here's the thing: you're thinking these thoughts. These thoughts have probably been coming up for a while. If it were as simple as just not thinking that thought anymore, you would have done it already. In fact, you would have never done it to begin with, right? And so the thing is, let's find a way for you to keep thinking that thought, at least in the short term, and make it not a problem. So rather than solving the problem, I've got this unresourceful thought, let's just make it not a problem that thought is there for now. And I think the way to do that is to, one, just recognize that that's a thought. So when you think, oh, I'm too stupid to do this, you feel too stupid, right? And I've done that before. And for me, my whole experience of feeling stupid changed when I knew that feeling stupid meant that I would just thought to myself, I guess I'm too stupid to do this. When that's all it means, when all it means is that when I put a strawberry into my mouth, I taste a strawberry. That when I think this thought, I feel the emotional equivalent or the emotional manifestation or the emotional consequence of it. All of a sudden, it doesn't mean that you're too stupid anymore. It means that you thought an unresourceful thought. And when you really recognize that, there's this. It's a couple of like preliminary things where it's like when you get a new haircut or you buy a new outfit or something like that, and you feel really good. You almost start feeling so good, it almost makes you think, oh, well, better kind of scale it back a little bit. Pride comes before a fall, etc. You know, that kind of like, you almost feels unnerving to feel really empowered or to feel the exhilaration of like, maybe this shitty feeling's not true.
I had that belief that pride comes before a fall belief. Wherever, if there was a time when I was feeling really good about myself, feeling really confident, I'd have that thought, and then it was like, oh shit, something bad is going to happen to me soon. Because I mean, what a destructive belief to have. That's a huge one. And again, most of these things we're not consciously aware that we're believing them until you start having these aha moments, and until you start becoming consciously aware and shining the light of awareness into these like dark corners of your mind, where these beliefs, they are like under the radar. They were implanted in many of us before we were 5 years old. A lot of these deep down beliefs, the things that like we think that are just true about us, true about the world, true about money, and that's why, you know, these things that happen in childhood affect people so profoundly, where they truly don't think they can change. They truly don't think that any amount of positive thinking can make a profound shift for them, because it's not that simple, you know.
It's deep in one sense, I think. It's deep in the sense that very often the process began far back in the history, personal history, in your early in your life, but the present moment significance of it is always right here. It's always on the surface. It's always actually it's in the water. It's on the lens of you're seeing through it constantly. You're overlooking it. It's always right here, right now. And so there's that interesting thing where the origin is far away, but the present moment relevance in terms of experience and behavior and results is always right here and right now. And that's why I like observing right here and right now, and getting a map for navigating experience, because you don't get lost down rabbit holes of concepts and stuff like that. And so I think just going back to this like responding resourcefully thing, it's just that giving yourself the ability to assign a new meaning. I mean, because if I can think a negative thought and feel a negative emotion right now, and decide that negative emotion doesn't mean what I should do next. I should pout, I should act out, I should whatever. Decide that it means, this is a really nice opportunity to look at the quality of my thoughts. Every single time I think I'm stupid, I feel stupid. But when I don't think I'm stupid, I don't feel stupid. Maybe that is the criteria to actually use. So many people are willing to think thoughts that feel bad to them, and so they do. But when you start to say, when I think this thought, I don't feel good, that in and of itself is enough for me to say, I'm going to start the phase out process here. When you make yourself the measure of all things in that regard, you stop thinking that thought. And the other thing for me too is to say, it's not that I'm incapable of being stupid. I listen, probably once a day I do something that's really quite stupid, at a minimum, right? On a good day. And so I know I've got the ability to be stupid. You certainly have the ability. We all have the ability to be stupid. I can be the stupidest person. Is this true? Can I do things that actually almost just instantaneously upset you because of how stupid they are?
No.
No, come on, like around the house stuff.
I guess. I mean,
yeah, she's lying. I do stupid things, and everyone has the ability to do that. And when I recognize that what we call stupidity is a manifestation of either just simply not thinking about what I'm doing or thinking thoughts that really aren't serving me about that, it's not a big deal. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I'm capable of doing that. Sometimes it's a source of hilarity. I mean,
true.
Yeah, and so it's in retrospect usually. And so when you recognize that, it's like that's not something that you are. It might be something that you're capable of doing. and see, let's turn these things into activities. You know what I'm saying? Let's look at what does it look like for you to be or to do stupid. It looks like probably usually you think to yourself, God, I'm too stupid. You know what I'm saying? Or, oh, I'm such an idiot. Or maybe you hear in your voice your parent or a teacher or somebody like that. And then you feel a feeling. And here's the thing. Then you trust that feeling to tell you not what you've been thinking about, but to trust that feeling to tell you what's true. And that's the mistake. It tells you what's true about what you've just been thinking, but it doesn't tell you what's true in like the fundamental identity of you kind of way. Now, all of a sudden, there you go. It's like, I like this approach a lot because it doesn't require you to kind of have like a pixie dust and fairy positive, like, because that stuff sounds good, but in the deep dark moments, like when you're by yourself and the insecurities start bubbling up, that doesn't really stand up to the scrutiny for me. What stands up to the scrutiny for me is saying, listen, I can create this feeling in myself. I know this is true. I know it's coming from my thoughts. I know I can create behaviors that I can then identify and say, oh, that's stupid. I can even create results that seem to demonstrate to me that I'm a very stupid person. That's only one of the infinite number of things that I can create in my life, though. And when I find out, if I'm feeling stupid, I say to myself, man, I am assigning unresourceful meanings to things. I am telling myself that the fact that something doesn't go well, the fact that I didn't understand something, if you don't understand something about what I'm saying, maybe the problem's with me. Do you know what I'm saying? Maybe there's something wrong with what I'm talking about or the way I'm presenting it, for example. Or maybe you're just depleted. Maybe you've been, your mind is just really fatigued right now. Maybe this is just really new material that your mind's kind of wrapping itself around. The meaning is very powerful. And so I think the thing is trusting your feeling to tell you the quality of the thoughts you've been thinking, not thinking that it's telling you something about what is absolutely true for you. It's like the speedometer in your car is very good for giving you feedback, right? It tells you something really important. You don't want to think it's telling you what speed you should be going. It's just telling you what speed you are going. Yeah, your feelings aren't telling you what you should be thinking. It's just telling you what you are thinking. And when you recognize that, it's like, oh, I'm going 55. This is a 35. I better slow down. Oh, I'm feeling really, really bad. I want to be feeling good. I better slow down my thinking. I better change or speed up my thinking. I got to do something different with my thoughts. That's how I would respond resourcefully. Don't resist it. Don't tell yourself that, because very often people who have an I'm stupid pattern, they think, oh, I'm so stupid, and then they feel bad. And then they meet someone who says, oh, don't think to yourself that you're stupid. You don't want to do that. And then what they do is they slip up and they think to themselves, oh, I'm so stupid. And then they say, oh, God, I'm not supposed to think that. I'm stupid. God, that's stupid of me. I'm so stupid. And I think the thing is to respond intelligently to that. That's that thing, is that it's never your job to have been more intelligent or more clever or more resourceful than you were a moment ago. It's only your job ever to be as clever, as intelligent, as resourceful as you can be now. And you always are. And so it's just recognizing how can I let it be okay that I just did what I did and know better, and how can I do as well as I can now to do as well as I can and know better, so that I can do as well as I can in the next moment, and that best will be better than what it is right now. It's just this kind of like constant, compassionate proactivity. It's like let's get it done. Let's also let it be okay that it's not done yet. Let's everyone feel really good, and it works.
Yeah, that's kind of like the basis of all of our coaching and teaching, is just this like continual, just kind of like wrapping you up in these good feelings, in these resourceful thoughts, in these how can you feel even better, and then even better, and then even better, and how can you optimize your thoughts so that you're populating your suggested thoughts with things that you want to think, that feel really good, that are really resourceful, so it's kind of like, helping you to learn how to ride the bike, with the training wheels, and then sending you off on your own. And so, that's what our courses do. That's what our coaching does. That's what we hope to get across in these, live videos that we do and help you guys with. So yeah, is there anything else you wanted to add for today?
I don't think so.
Awesome. So thank you guys so much for joining us, for those of you who were live, and anybody who watches the replay. If you need any help, if you want any coaching, if you're interested in our course that's coming out next week, just stay tuned. We'll be posting a link to it. It's really awesome. It's called Beyond Belief, and it's awesome. Beyond Belief. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks. See you soon.